What do you do when you discover the place you're moving into is haunted? Do you stay anyway? Well, it seems like that's exactly what happened to Thomas and Anna Whaley when they decided to build their dream home in San Diego, California in 1857. Hi, I'm your host, and today we're exploring Casa Whaley. Make sure to subscribe if you like stories like these. Now, before we get started, all of the photos in this video are either recreated vintage style or stock images because we respect the wishes of the current owners of the property. So back to our story. Before construction even began, the area where the house would be built was used as the city's first public gallows. Yep, you heard me right, a gallows. In fact, the last person to be hung there was a man named Yankee Jim Robinson. Let's just say that his death was brutal. They say his neck didn't break and he slowly suffocated for minutes before finally taking his last breath. Some believe that his soul never left that spot and it's trapped within the walls of the Whaley house forever. Now, you might be asking yourself why in the world anyone would build a house on top of a cemetery and an execution site. Well, the answer is simple. Thomas Whaley had no idea. See, this was 1857 and no one knew about the gallows or the graveyard that was there. Otherwise, they wouldn't have built their dream house on top of it. So once the house was finished, the Whaley family moved right in. Now, almost immediately, they began experiencing strange activity. At first, it was subtle. Footsteps creaked on the stairs. Doors slammed shut on their own. But then things started to escalate. Thomas even claimed to hear heavy boots walking near where the gallows stood. He described them as the same boots that Yankee Jim wore. The ghosts were becoming more active. Sadly, the ghosts seemed to have a particular interest in the Whaley children. First, their son John fell ill and died at only 6 months old. Then, their 14-year-old daughter, Violet, climbed up on the windowsill on the second floor to take a closer look at the sailor who had caught her eye. The sailor promised to return, but sadly, he never did. Heartbroken over her forbidden romance, Violet took her own life inside the house. Since then, she's been known to weep in the garden, appear in mirrors, and call out for help. Some say if you listen closely, you can still hear her faint cries. Throughout the years, other tragedies struck the family. Their son, Thomas Jr., was killed in a car accident, and their other daughter died after giving birth to her child. After Anna passed away, Thomas remarried a much younger woman named Elizabeth. But even he couldn't escape the tragedies that seemed to strike this house. He passed away peacefully in his sleep, or so they thought. His friends and family claimed that he never looked happier than in those final years, and they believed that he'd finally found peace. That was until his coffin was disinterred to move his remains to another cemetery. That's when they discovered he'd actually been buried with his wallet and watch. Not only that, but his body was missing part of its skin and one of his eyes. Here, no joke. Needless to say, everyone was pretty grossed out by that discovery. The Whaley house continued to be plagued with tragedy, death, and sorrow, so much so that it became known as the House of Sorrow. Even after the Whaley family sold the home, strange things continued to happen. In the early 1900s, the house was used as a courthouse, and one day a man accused of murdering his wife was brought to the building to stand trial. As he walked through the front door, he turned to the judge and said, "I didn't kill my wife, but I'd sure like to kill myself." He then pulled out a gun and shot himself right in front of everyone. Talk about adding to the sorrow of the house. Since then, the Whaley house has served as a courthouse, a theater, and a general store. Throughout the years, thousands of visitors have come through its doors. Many have reported seeing apparitions, feeling sudden drops in temperature, hearing disembodied voices and footsteps, and smelling flowers when no one is around. One investigator even claimed to see a little girl standing in a doorway, then she vanished. So, what's the verdict? Is the Whaley house really haunted? Well, that's for you to decide. But I will say this, if there are ghosts here, they certainly know how to keep themselves hidden. There have been hundreds of ghost hunting investigations, but only a handful of images have ever captured anything unusual. Even the investigators who have spent the most time here have very little to show for their efforts. But that doesn't mean they aren't here. If you want to visit the Whaley house for yourself, you're in luck. It's open to the public for tours throughout the year. Just remember to be respectful. After all, this is a real house with real ghosts who are simply trying to live their lives. So, do you believe in ghosts? Have you ever seen one? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, some places don't just remember the past, they relive it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.